We have one more announcement that we failed to put on there. We're gonna let Councilmember Love announce it, since she's been the spearhead of this one.
So July 19th, Saturday, July 19th, this is for all of our residents here in Elgin. We will be holding a citywide all-council town hall meeting. It will be held at the EISD Administration Building. It's gonna be from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. There will be an agenda going out and more information regarding that, but heads up, this is your first announcement about it, so ample time.
Thank you. All right. Next will be our staff report. Mr. Turner?
Madam Mayor, members of the council, members of the public, we are pleased to be in a position to provide you with some information regarding activities and progress has been made in the finance department. We believe significant progress has been made. We still have a long ways to go. Again, I estimate it'll probably be 2 to 3 years before the foundation has been built and things are running smoothly, but we are looking to steer and get the things going in the right direction. Lori Langford with Gradient Solutions and Pam Sanders, who has been pitch hitting as our HR director and has been pitch hitting as our finance director, will provide you with some presentation information. We want to make sure that you're updated on what we're doing to try to reset the city's financial operations. We want to make sure that you are updated on what we're doing to prepare for the audits review for this year and next year, and also what we're doing as we approach the budget process. So again, this meeting will have this discussion. You will get your budget on July the 15th, and the next week you'll have some smaller budget briefings in preparation for the budget workshops in August. At this time, Ms. Langford will provide you some information.
I'm not always the best at the clicker. So back in January, the City Council engaged me to start working with the Finance Department to provide advice and support. And since then, we have accomplished quite a bit. We've identified several things that we still need to address, and I have an ongoing list that I'm keeping up with on those things. But in April, whenever we gave an update to council, we identified 3 priority areas for that moment in time, because there's so many things to address that we had to narrow our focus as of that time. And so I'm going to give you a quick update on those 3 areas. They were the bank reconciliations, the external audits, and the budget for fiscal year 2026. I'm excited to tell you all bank reconciliations, except for one account, is updated through May of 2025, which means last month. That's exciting. The one account that is still outstanding is our primary account, and we are almost finished with October of 2024. Staff is assisting my staff with identifying transactions that still need to be posted or posted correctly to the system, and we will continue methodically getting those bank recs done. If your bank rec is in good shape, then that just leads to the rest of your financials being in good shape. So we have spent a lot of our time on that. On June the 23rd, our external auditors were actually on site over at City Hall. They were here for 2 days. Brooks Watson, they were here, and we have been able to provide them with all of the requests that they have. They give us a list called the Verified Client List. It has about 50 different requests and reports and summaries that we have to provide them with. We were able to get all of that provided to them on time for them to have a trial balance at least 2 weeks ahead of time before they came. And while they were here, they pulled over 300 transactions for review. They look at these transactions, it's accounts payable, payroll, utility billing, adjustments, municipal court, permits. And our city staff that's probably in the audience today has helped pull a lot of that information. Everybody has been so findings have not been addressed, and you could have more. So I want to make sure you're prepared for that. We do have plans in place to start addressing those findings. But it's kind of a slow process, because as I've talked with Mr. Turner several times, as I dig into certain aspects of the financials, it just spider webs, and I can go down rabbit trails, and I find just things that aren't quite making sense, and we talked about that last time I was with you guys. But we'll get there. It's a slow process, and it's a teamwork. It's teamwork involved. The third thing that we had as a priority was the fiscal '26 budget. And finance and the interim city manager and all the departments have worked together to prepare a forecast for the fiscal '26 budget. Pam will talk about it a little bit more, but it is going to look different from what y'all have had in the past. But I feel like the numbers are as best as we could get them at this time, and we put a lot of consideration into them. So, next steps. We are going to continue working on those audit findings, figure out ways to address them to become more efficient in our financials. We are going to also help us, and we're going to assist in some key areas. I do want to remind council that you have not had a full-time accountant on staff since April of 2024, over a year. You only have one position currently that is designated as a degreed accountant, and that's something we have addressed, that we're hoping we can get 2 positions designated with governmental experience. We are going to continue staff on how to record transactions correctly, how to do the research, and also Gradient will continue to perform your bank reconciliations. Due to the small size of staff, most of our staff either cuts checks or accepts payments, and those individual staff members should not be doing bank reconciliations due to internal controls. So Gradient will continue to do those bank reconciliations with the assistance of staff, but we'll take the primary responsibility for that. And then in the fall, we have, at Gradient, we have some prescribed process reviews where we sit down with an individual department and we walk through their entire process. We watch them actually take a payment or process a check, and we prepare recommendations on where there could be internal controls that are lacking, or how to strengthen them, or how to change the process. And so those will begin in the fall once we get the budget adopted. Those are our next steps. Just like in conclusion, we spoke about it several times, the importance of hiring staff, a finance director, and hopefully a senior accountant or something of the sort, to be able to continue the progress that we've made, to be systematic and do the processes as they should be, and timely and correctly. So we hope, get my words out. We just encourage you, and I know you want to find the right person to sit in that chair to help Elgin get to the next steps. Again, Pam's gonna go, but if you have any questions for me, I can take them now, or we can take them at the end.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, sorry, go ahead. So I know the audit is always a year past. And so at what point, based on your best judgment, and I'm not holding you to this, but at what point will our audits start not showing
Be on
these?
time?
Well, not be on time, but start not showing these
Findings.
The same
findings.
findings,
Yeah.
the same ones.
Yeah.
A couple of your findings will be more difficult to address, that you may have those findings until you get the staff on, until you get the right staff on board to be able to address them. Some of them should be able to be addressed within this next year, where with the internal controls, that type of thing. But the major one that you guys auditors prepare our financial statements extensively. Most cities, in my experience, prepare a draft, and then the auditors take it to that next level. We're not at that stage to even prepare a draft here in Elgin. So that's where the talent of and experience of that finance director and senior accountant will come into play. So you could have that comment for another 2 to 3 years, depending on the skill set of the finance director that you hire. There are the next finding was regarding pooled cash. I hope we get that one settled this year. My goal is for us to have that, if we can get all of the bank recs done timely and our transactions posted accurately the first time, then that will really make a big difference on that audit comment. Some of the others were relating to the bank reconciliations, pooled cash, and then Public Funds Investment Act. This one isn't a hard one. We need to start bringing an investment report to council quarterly, and the people responsible for the investing, which at this point in time, we don't do any investing. We put them in the state pools where they do earn higher interest rates than your local bank. But we need to bring a quarterly report, and everybody responsible for that needs to be trained under the Public Investment Act. And so that one won't be a hard one to address. So the biggest one that will be the hardest is the preparation of your financial statements and truly understanding what those financial statements are saying. Did I answer
Yep,
that?
thank you.
Excuse me, I have a couple questions. A few questions. First, with respect to your first slide about the 300-plus transactions that you pulled for review, how were those selected? Was that a random, or was that areas of need that were identified, or?
What an auditor does is, for instance, accounts payable, we provide them with a list of every bill we've paid for the year. They have a methodology to go in and select random transactions. I don't know exactly what their method is to decide, but they may say, we have 5,000 transactions and they want to test a certain number. So when they're doing their audit planning, they make the decision based on dollar amounts and number of transactions and materiality, and they do a random selection. So in this one regard, they were looking for unreported liabilities, and I believe they pulled about 80 different transactions. So we have to provide them with, in that situation, we provide them with the invoice and all of the backup and a copy of the check and when it cleared the bank. And so they look at it to say, did we report this in the proper year? Have we put it on the books correctly? So that's an example of accounts payable. From a utility billing perspective, they do bill recalcs. And so they'll pull different transactions. We send them a listing of all of our customers with how much and all of our bills for the year. And they have a method to pull those. And I feel like they pulled about 30 of those. I don't remember for sure, but then our utility billing manager had to trace them back and say, this is where it hit the GL, this is where it hit the bank. Well, first of all, this was the right dollar amount to charge the customer, and then this is where it hit the GL, this is where it hit the bank. So the auditors have procedures to pull those things.
With, in your experience, with respect to the accountant position that's been posted for quite some time, we've been vacant for quite some time. We've talked about not only hiring that position, possibly another one. In your opinion and your years of experience, is there adequate number of staff to address all these problems?
I do feel like if you were to hire a finance director and a senior accountant, and you have one accounts payable clerk and then a specialist, in a project, you will have a project specialist, then you should have enough. At the very beginning, it will be difficult if we can't unravel some of this and put the city towards the right path. But I think if you can get the competent person in that understands understands what needs to happen each month, what needs to balance, how does this work, how should this be going, that should be enough staff. I really feel like you need 2 accountants on staff. I'm not saying they need to be certified, but they do need to have training and experience in governmental accounting.
My final question has to do with respect to rolling out the new budget and your process reviews. I'm assuming you're going to be working with real data at that time, real information, invoices, or whatever. That'll be on-the-job training, so to speak. What about long-term professional development for our employees to make sure that they stay on top of not only the changing laws and the needs, but as the technology changes, as the growth of the city gets bigger, and so forth? What sort of recommendations would y'all make for that?
First of all, I would want to make sure that everybody understands the report function, understands how it fits into the big picture, they understand why they're doing what they're doing. There are training classes, there are continuing education classes that can be taken. The recommendation would be to look for opportunities for growth for each individual person. HR would come into play on what type to help find those training opportunities if the finance director doesn't know. Also, Excel training. I would highly recommend everybody have some type of above basic Excel training so that they understand how to get to data, how to analyze, how to just do some above basic things. It doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be pivot tables, anything like that, but just make sure that your staff has that type of Excel training. And then meet the needs of that individual. If they want to cross-train, if they want to learn other areas in the department, to make sure they have those opportunities.
How do we go about the council not being just blindsided by all of this stuff in the future? It appears this has been going on for a while.
Yes, sir. So every year, an audit, the auditor stands in front of council and presents his findings. He'll have a slide, and those 4 5 findings that I had in my folder are on the board. And council is made aware. Management goes back and writes a memo to the auditors. Basically, this is how we're going to address these findings. There has been, finance is typically short-staffed or has staff that hasn't stayed for a very long time. You know, they have short tenure. And that is what I would attribute to it, is a lot of it would be the short tenure of staff, maybe not, maybe the staff not having the proper training or experience in governmental accounting. Whenever you're a staff of 1 as an accountant, you don't have anybody to bounce something off of. And just to give, as I have a team of people that if I get confused by something, I can call them and I can go, hey, this doesn't make sense. And so previously you had the finance director who is the subject matter expert, and when they don't have somebody to talk through things with, that can be really difficult.
Well, we have to rely on our professionals in the business and our finance directors and those folks. And I'm just trying to figure out a way that we can maybe get more current reports from our staff and of course, city manager and stuff like that. But yeah, I guess I'm confused because I'm new to this thing, and from what I hear, it's been going on for a while. And that being said, I'm confused why, if the auditor's report suggested these things were reoccurring, how we ended up 5 years down the road, but I don't know.
I understand the question.
Yeah.
But
Our city manager wants to
Yeah.
address.
First, just a quick request, Madam Mayor, members of the council, if we could allow Ms. Sanders to do her presentation. I listed a couple of questions that you all asked that I'd like to respond to. If you insist, I will answer the questions right now, though, without any problem.
No, I'd say go ahead.
Are you got more to go?
I don't have any more minutes. If anybody has any more questions for me, or they can ask them.
Okay. And Pam, can you do yours, and then we'll go into our Q&A session.
Thank you, Lord.
Good evening. Can y'all hear me?
been done. So, Roy didn't give you that amount to explain to you that it's not something that's just a couple hours a day. It's been pretty in-depth. Some of the other areas that we've covered are, we've done the training with department staff on the budget process. I've done 1 5-hour training with staff, department heads and managers, and multiple one-on-ones because people wanted clarification. Maybe they didn't want to ask in the training class. So I've had multiple one-on-ones with people and clarify different things for them to help them understand the process a little bit more, including going in-depth in the financial system to show them how to look this information up for themselves and how to run their own report so that they can monitor their own department, because after all, that's what department heads are supposed to do. And so that's been helpful because now they're calling me with questions because they find something that doesn't look right to them, and so that's another area that we can go down and explore. We created a budget manual this year, which is something new that we've never done in the 6 years that I've been here, that gave staff a set of guidelines to follow on how to prepare their department request, how to complete the forms. We also did the training on the financial system. I did get some kudos from staff saying thank you, that this was the first that they'd ever had this, and it was something that they've been looking for a while. We did Encode training with, Encode is our financial system. We did 4 days of Encode training, solid 8 hours a day with our finance staff, so that they could have hands-on in the system, learning how to use it the right way. We walked away from that training with recorded videos, lots of tips and tricks that will, something that we can refer back to if we get stumped again in the future, rather than trying to guess their way through things. We have used Teams for the budget process this year, which helped with version control, so that we didn't have multiple copies of the same documents and trying to find the most recent. I think that, in my own opinion, was very helpful because last year we had 6 different copies of the same document, and in some areas we ended up with not the latest document being presented. So that was helpful this year. The next one is, that's not my slide. Okay. So we talked about the software usage that we've done, the training that we've done with it. We're still aligning accounting processes. As we come through things, we're working through what makes the most sense and how to do a process. We're writing down those processes so that we can talk through as groups to make sure that we're monitoring for internal control processes. And then the budget process is the next one. What are we gonna do in the budget process for y'all for next council meeting? So on July 15th, we will present you with a document that's gonna look very different than what you've seen in the last 6 years or even longer than that. It will be a document that consists of system-generated reports. It will not be a put-together, spiral-bound document with photos and lots of fancy words. Sorry for lack of a better description. It will be reports with numbers that will come directly from the system for you to see that these items haven't been manipulated and that they are directly from the system. They will be to-date current information. I think June is the date that we ran, even though you'll get them in July. You will have a visual of how to read those documents with instructions. We will walk through the steps to show you the areas we think that you need to hone in on and which columns to pay attention to. You will see the requests from every single department this year on the forms that they completed and what they requested, how they requested it, and whether or not it was funded. You will also see, there's another section in that document.
I can take care of it, whenever you're ready.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Mayor, members of the council, just a couple of things to address, a couple of questions, concerns you expressed, and obviously this is not the first time you've talked about it. I'm going to say it in kind of layperson's terms because I'm not the accountant. When will you start seeing clean audits? As I've stated before, and this may be bleeding into Councilmember Krim's question also, question also. Anytime you see an audit with the finding and then staff's addressing of that, and the same things are there the next year and the third year, then there's a problem that you can always say that there's a problem, period. Recommendations, and I think Councilmember Kasanowski, if I'm remembering correctly, also asked a similar question of me that caused me to think quite a bit in terms of how do we as a council provide the oversight so that we see things headed in a certain direction and we're able to assist the staff in intervening to make sure that we don't go too far down the wrong road. It may be another way to phrase that if I got to just. A couple of things that were obviously said, the hiring staff for governmental training, that is absolutely critical and very difficult. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but that's absolutely critical. In addition to that, you can do monthly reports that will help you out. Your job as a council, I'm having one of those epiphany moments. Your job as a council is, when you have questions of whoever's sitting in this chair, to ask them. I think that we can all be professional and do this in a courteous way that respects the dignity and worth of each human being, but ask the questions. And if I give you an answer that doesn't sound right, push it until you get an answer. It may be you caught me off guard and I blew something. And you say, okay, after this meeting, I'm going to talk with him and let him know that question's coming back up again. You have that responsibility. I want to say that I appreciate tremendously council's trust in staff. I can't tell you how valuable that is. Even if I spend all night, can't tell you that, how valuable that is. On the other side, I don't ever want to lose that trust in staff. So when you have questions and you have to do your job, then you have questions and you have to do your job. I've often told mayors that I've worked with, and thank God I haven't had to say this with this mayor, but when the mayors have tough messages to deliver to me, I tell them, sometimes you got to be the mayor. I mean, that doesn't affect our personal relationship, but sometimes you just got to be the mayor. Which means you got to ask the hard questions, tough questions. You've got to demand accountability from the person that's sitting in this seat. Again, you can do the monthly reports. Those are very helpful. There's a couple of awards that I'm going to recommend as you see the budget and as we are talking now that we pursue. There are 2 awards from the Government Finance Officers Association. Thank you. One is for the budget. One is for the audit. Do they call it a CAFR anymore? Or they just call it audit? Who? Thank you. Wow, they keep changing. I'm not trying to keep up with that anymore. But there are awards for budgets and for audits. You will likely not get it the first year, probably not the second year. But we ought to be trying for it because it tells you what boxes you need to check. And the staff can tell you, look, we applied for the award, we checked for this box, this box, this box. We know we're not quite there on this one, just like Lori was telling you, we know we're not quite there on this one or this one, but at least we're applying, we're trying, and we're trying to meet those standards. Those will help you with some of the standards there. The training for staff. Citywide, there's an issue of training. I think we're doing a fair job of making sure people are training for the certifications that they need for the jobs. Sometimes those are on a time schedule, sometimes we fall behind. But it would be nice if each employee had an individual kind of professional development or training program. They don't have to be super sophisticated at all. Sit down and talk with the employee wants to do X, Y, and Z. That means, though, that we as a city will have to fund that training and put some value in that training. It ought to be not only job-related, but add value to the employee that's add value to the city from the employee that's doing the job. So you don't just any training, or it's not even just any training related to your job. It's training that the departments and the HR decide add value to your positions. You can talk about that a little bit more when you do the, if you accept and agree to do the comprehensive compensation and benefits study, because you won't be able to outpay your competition a lot of times. You may have to have some other programs that will add some value to the employees and part of that may be a certification program or something like that. So those are the kind of things that you can do to help employees to become better trained and become better employees. But we do need to invest some additional dollars into that, but we also need to invest some additional planning into that, which I think HR will be able to help out with the departments in terms of doing that. Did I address everyone's questions? And I have just a couple comments and I'll be done.
Follow-up question.
Yes, ma'am.
So you mentioned monthly reports. The monthly reports come from?
The monthly reports would come from finance, and those can be done. That shouldn't be a problem, especially once it's implemented and instituted. What those will simply tell you in the simplest form, and I'm sure you can get those as sophisticated as you want to be, but those will tell you in the simplest form what your budgeted amount was, what you spent during that pay period, what the total amount you spent during that fiscal year. And you can have some percentages on that. So you just kind of track expenditures. I do want to be clear, though, you still could not track some of those accounts, even under getting a monthly report. You could still not track those accounts as well as they ought to be tracked. So the audits are important, the budget reports are important. But a monthly report will tell you how you're doing in the current fiscal year and why that's important.
And so, sorry.
Yeah,
Um,
no problem.
When can we say, okay, we're ready for those, and are y'all ready for those?
I'm so glad you said that last part. If you were to do those monthly reports, this is my recommendation. Now, we will produce whatever you say produce, but this is my recommendation. So you know the fiscal year starts in October. Typically, the numbers, to me, and Lori and Pam may disagree with this, but typically the numbers start getting a little bit more real after the first quarter. So after December, you get into January, you've got 3 months. A lot of times some of your spending is up front if it's for equipment, and so you'll see that, but you're starting the trend after 3 months. So if you start getting it in January, that would be fine. The ones that start paying seriously close attention to start in March. In March, the month of March has been entered into the books. At that point, you're halfway through the fiscal year, and you're actually starting to look at budget numbers. The person in this seat, if I was in this seat, I would start looking at budget numbers. We start building the budget around that time, so that's when you start looking at some of the budget numbers. So halfway through the fiscal year, they become a little bit more important. You can certainly see trends and that sort of thing of expenditures. Now, typically, these monthly reports will probably be at the departmental level. You probably don't want to go through the line item, or you can, but you would waste a significant amount of your time and staff's time going through that, I believe. But you can see that if you want to.
I think on that note, my question would be, in all honesty, is a monthly report, is that creating more work and not really indicating, just because a lot of times you can't see that much change versus a quarterly report?
Yeah, and I think there's some, yes, I absolutely agree with that, which is why I was suggesting to you wait past the first quarter, for sure. But a quarterly report would be good also. And I think it sends a message to the staff and the community that you're paying attention, watching the budget. But those other things are just as important, or probably even more critical, to making sure that the city's financially healthy and the accounting is occurring.
Yeah,
But
I
yes,
agree.
I agree. The quarterly,
Yeah, I mean,
quarterly's not a bad idea.
Like I would say maybe January, skip February, and then March.
Okay.
Now you're halfway, and then what, May? June, okay.
Yeah, because at some point in there, start remembering that you're in your budget season, and that when you get the budget, there will be some numbers in there that should be a little bit more up to date. But Lori, please.
Just to keep it straightforward and simple, I would do, my recommendation would be a quarterly report that would go along with that Public Funds Investment Act report that I was also referring to. They can provide that to you at the same time. So if you get to the end of December, I wouldn't expect a report until the first council meeting in February. Okay, so that would be for the first 3 months. And then you would get another report at the beginning of May, it would be for the next 3 months, and cyclical with
said monthly, so I went with it.
I understand. I always cringe a little because I appreciate him saying not until January, also because property tax revenue trickles, kind of comes in little at a time, and then all of a sudden you get all of this, and then you don't get any more, and so that's where the quarterly report tends to be more meaningful.
Well, and the sales tax data is somewhat similar in terms of you're seeing the first
Yeah, I don't,
quarter of those. So I understand. Let us work on that, and we can bring you back a recommendation. I do concur that quarterly probably is the best, especially starting out. And I will ask, because we had talked about getting someone to do investments but let's not make sausage right now, please. But I just giving you a heads up. I want to know what happened to that, because I don't remember, and that's not unusual. I just don't remember. Let me talk to you a little bit about the budget that you're going to get. And as you heard Pam say, the data that you're going to get is going to be pulled directly off of our financial system, which has had a significant amount of cleanup. So we're pleased with the numbers at this point of where we're at. We still haven't been able to sort out that ball of yarn, or whatever metaphor you want to use. We still haven't been able to sort that out. What we're going to do, and I think I've said this to you before, Council, but I want to say it again and say it to the public. What we're going to do is present to you a budget that will show where we think we're going to end up at the end of this current fiscal year, 24-25, September 30. And in that budget, we want to be able to show that there is a surplus of revenues over expenditures. Staff has worked very, very hard to make sure that that's happening, and we will have to continue to do that towards the end of the year. Secondly, next fiscal year, we also want to make sure that revenues exceed expenditures. We will talk to you about the methodology of which we were able to get those on the books, but it is curtailing, tightening the budget, whatever phrasing that you want to use. But what you will have, because we don't know, we can't ascertain what the fund balances are. It's too mixed up to do that right now. So we want to make sure that you are able to say, this is an amount that we will have left over from X fiscal year, and this is the amount we will have left over from the next fiscal year. We anticipate that at some point, and it may be during your next budget process, if you've got all the pieces in place, and depending on where your manager and your finance director are at that time, they may come and say, look, this is as much of the yarn that we can unwind. There is this much left. And based on whatever assumptions they're going to make, we are going to divide what's left in between these funds and these funds and these funds. We're going to put them in X accounts. So at some point, somebody's going to have to say, look, this is as far as we can go in terms of trying to back research, and we're going to move forward. This is how we're going to divide it up. That should be public information. It should be a presentation made up here. We will not, if we get any indication, or anybody gets any indication that some malfeasance has occurred at any time, they have an obligation, the finance folks have an obligation, Gradient has an obligation, the person sitting in this chair has an obligation to make sure that's investigated appropriately, no matter when we find it. If that happens, we don't see any evidence of that. We do not see any evidence of that. If we had, you would have been notified. Same kind of discussion we have here, a little bit in more in-depth discussion. So the plan is to pretend as though we don't have any, quote, savings, if you will. This is Isaac Turner's language. The accountants probably don't like that phrasing, but we're going to pretend like we don't have any savings, and so we're going to make a pot of savings for this year and a pot of savings for next year. And you'll see those numbers, what those look like. You'll see the challenges of what those look like. It won't be the most beautiful picture, but it is pretty compared to where we were at. Thank you, Madam.
I have two questions. One is, as we're looking for a finance director and assistant finance employee, since Gradient is here, would they be able to, as these people come in with their resumes, be able to help weed out? I'm just saying, because the experts.
Look at
Do
Lori's
we need a
face.
finance-
Everybody, just look at her
We need a
face.
finance director.
Look-
You said it yourself.
Look at her face.
Yeah,
We-
see?
We've already gone through, and
Okay.
we're going through that exercise. We will chat with you based on discussions of my performance decisions in executive session.
Okay, and then, as far as the budget, I know y'all just stated that we'll get it on the 15th. With this all-council meeting happening on the 19th, will you be able to speak on it then?
You know, I was supposed to say something about the 19th meeting. What was that? Hayden? There's not a meeting on the 19th, is there?
It's town.
Oh, Lord, okay, Jesus.
You're thinking about the
Yeah,
8th.
you're thinking about this.
We're not
All
having
right.
one on the 8th.
Councilmember, please forgive me, ask the question again.
Wait.
The one you're thinking of, there's a budget workshop on the 29th.
Thank you. Please ask the question again. Thank you very much.
Basically, since we get the budget on the 15th, will you be able to speak on it on the 19th?
I would share something that, to me, is hilarious, and it might not be to you all, but I'm going to share it anyway. When you ask council members, after they ask you questions one-on-one, and you ask them to ask that same question in the meeting, and then they ask it, and you blow it, I mean, that's, that's just really bad. The answer, short answer to that is yes. We are looking forward to that ward meeting, and we will provide some brief staff comments from 3 to 5 minutes. The budget is one of those things that's on there. You will have your budget in hand. Obviously, you had just gotten it on the 15th, so wouldn't have time to sort through it, but we have gone through it pretty thoroughly, so either myself or someone from staff would definitely be able to give some highlights in that 3 to 5 minutes time, absolutely.
Okay,
We look forward to it. Thank you.
I wasn't gonna call you out.
You can just look at me and I just, oh.
You talk about, training for staff and stuff. Is it possible the council could have like a finance 101 class, you know? Because you mentioned 16 accounts earlier. I had no idea you had 16 accounts. I mean, I don't even know which bank we bank with.
Let me,
I don't want to commit the rest of the council, but I'd like to do it.
if you would, let us get through the budget process.
No, let's do it now.
TML
I-
has a boot camp, right? Yeah, the boot camp at TML, that probably would be.
Well, I just knew they were going to do it for the rest of the staff. I didn't know if it's something that we'd be privy to.
The training that the staff members got, and it wasn't all of the staff, but the training that the staff members got was specific to how to enter budgets into our software system and working with, I'm sure that they did some training in the departments on how to prepare the budgets and that sort of thing. We had changed the process quite a bit this year so that the information could be entered into the software system and there'd be less chance for error and just to automate the process a bit more. So that's a
Yeah.
little different. I think what you're talking about,
I'm looking for more local,
I-
yeah.
I think what you're talking about.
Municipal Finance Fundamentals Boot Camp Workshop,
Yeah.
June 11th and 12th. We
I'm
just
more
missed it.
concerned about Elgin.
But
In terms
it-
of,
it-
she said 16 accounts, I'm just,
But-
yeah.
The important part about this, and this is Isaac Turner, you might disagree, but I'm gonna say it anyway, because I can. The council, in my mind, functions better at 30,000, 20,000 feet. Functioning well at that level, not just, but functioning well. The thing that we want to be careful of, and I think that you want to be careful of, is not to get too far in the weeds. I don't even bit too far in the weeds, although I'm not going to look at staff right now as I say this, because they might disagree. But the TML is a good resource, a good training resource. I know sometimes people look and say, well, I don't have to go, out of town and we can do it here and that sort of thing. But these folks have developed these classes over decades. And there are some similarities in cities, a lot of similarities in cities, whether it's home rule cities or general law cities or those sorts of things, but there are similarities. These are some really, really good courses. It saves the staff a lot of time. I will share with you, you probably have to go through the budget 3 times. And I'm not sure about the budget seasons in Elgin, but typically you have to go through the budgets about 3 times, budget seasons, before you kind of get a handle on it. So it's not important that you know Isaac Turner's opinion. It's not important that you know that there's 16 accounts. It is important that you get accurate financial information and that things balance or things are being spent as they're supposed to be spent. That's a critical part, and that's not, if you have to get to the point where you're checking line items or checking accounts as a council, how do I say this nicely? There's some larger decisions that you need to make. Because you hire the person in the seat. I don't have any, and even if I was full-time, I don't have any property rights to this position. You can come in, 5 of you in a bad mood, and I'd be gone. And you could just nicely tell me to leave anyway, but this is where the buck has to stop for you a lot of times. And that doesn't mean you can't ask questions and assess some things. But it's a relationship, it's a partnership, and it's you all understanding your role as council members is really, really critical for this to work very well.
Well, I think you misunderstand what I was asking for. I'm not asking to know all about the municipal finance or anything else. I was suggesting, like, if we're gonna read a financial report quarterly, I'd like to know what it, I mean, just
We
that.
got you on that one.
Yeah.
That one, we got you on, but I would, if you have some fundamentals, basics,
Yeah. no,
from
I-
TML, that would be perfect.
Right.
I would strongly encourage you to do that, but when those reports are presented, especially initially, you'll get kind of walked through those and pointed to some key
Yeah.
areas. As a matter of fact, they should be pretty digestible, especially since you've gone through the budget season. But yeah, if it's complex, we've
Yeah,
done
I
you a
know from
disservice.
experience, having been the treasurer for our ESD board, that most of our board members had problems understanding our financial reports and stuff. They did.
You got some folks, and I'm sorry, I keep acting like I'm gonna be here, but some of us really enjoy the budget process. I mean, we really enjoy explaining that stuff, and
What's wrong with you?
yeah. My wife is taxes, she gets excited when tax season comes up, and I was teasing her about it. She said, yeah, from a person who gets excited when budget season comes up. So, yeah, no, it would be our pleasure to help make sure that information is digestible, not only for you, but for members of the public.
I think it's, that's, what's being asked is best practices, right? Because you can look at a number and you can say, oh, that's a big number. But that could be a good thing, or that could be a bad thing, or that could be a neutral thing, right? And so, if we're looking at reserve accounts, how much, what's the best practice for in a reserve account? When should we have a red flag go off? I think those are things that I would say most people who get elected to this council don't necessarily come with that, and I think it would.
Government financing, particularly municipal financing, is difficult. It's not easy.
no.
And one of the things I love about this job is it's one of the most diverse jobs in terms of responsibilities that I think that there are. You could be talking streets, some places you're talking fire, some places, Dallas owned a radio station, trash, parks, libraries, and I love it, but it's real difficult to explain to somebody you've got not only fund accounting, but you've got accounting by departments and enterprise funds, and do you consolidate the internal services funds, or do you disperse them, blah, 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 or are we somewhere in between? Yeah, we can certainly, our job is to get you to a position where you're comfortable with the information that you're getting, so we can help to make sure that happens.
All right, any more questions on this?
Please, if you have questions, please don't hold back.
Going once, going twice?
I appreciate everybody being here, staff and Grady, and, I mean, again, this is not a pretty situation. At the same time, I feel like we're making progress, so I appreciate everybody.
Okay, library.
Okay, so I'm so excited to announce that Elgin Public Library has been approved for funding by the Texas State Library and Archives Commission for an amount of $24,551 for the 2026 Special Projects Grant. These funds will be used to improve our children's area by creating a sensory space for children with disabilities. EPL will offer specialized equipment such as calming stations and interactive wall panels. This area is intended, we plan to create a calming and safe space that can help regulate emotions and reduce anxiety. The library will host parent seminars, support groups for parents who have neurodivergent children, and also will provide a staff training. EPL is dedicated to fostering an inclusive and supportive environment for all our patrons. So this project begins today and will end on July 31st of 2026.
Can I ask a question? You will. I just wanted to know, I realize some of the, or is the training and or the classes, are they gonna be offered in English and Spanish?
Yes, we do have, fortunately, we've actually got 3 bilingual staff members now, so that's gonna help with that. Yes,
So,
ma'am.
thank you, it's really exciting. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
All right, city managers report. Begin with Mr. Perry.
Council Mayor. Wanted to just give a quick update on the property that the city has taken acquisition of from the Harvest Ridge Mud as part of y'all's development agreement. It's probably been about a year since we've laid out some alternatives, for an extension of the PD services out there. Staff has looked at, and we've come up with a schedule, we've come up with costing, but in the interest of the budget process, and we would ask for an extension on the use of that property would be one of the main points of any kind of amendment. We didn't want to entangle the budget process with that particular property, but I wanted to give you an update that we feel very confident that there for a time, I know that it was discussed, well, we got to do something because we don't want to lose this property because it has real value and we don't want it necessarily returned back to the developments. And so just wanted to give you guys an update as you go through the budget process and as the vote in November is being prepped for, that staff at this time feels that we still have a good control over that particular property. We feel like we have a good timeline. We have been in discussions with the lead development, which is Braun, and they're not pushing or beating down, ready to, grab that back. And so just kind of wanted to give you guys an update in case that question were to come up during the budget process of, do we need to try to act or do something on it immediately? And that I still fully feel like we have some time.
Any questions?
How is public safety defined?
Public safety, it's defined a little bit different in each of the development agreements, but it is very broadly. So it's not strictly police, it's not strictly fire, EMS, health, it is very broadly determined in that. So it can be a combination or it can be full towards one. You are going to try to do civic center or something that is unrelated to some kind of public service might be a stretch. It's not off the table because it's simply a conversation to have. And as part of that, when that amended development does come back for this particular property, that may be one of the things that council wants to see, or if that language can be changed in somehow or form or shape. Right now, it is public safety essentially. So it's gotta be something that aligns with that to a certain extent. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Control.
One of the things that we've talked about was, of course, public safety in different aspects, but also for meeting space that we sorely lack as a community. So that in addition to whatever the public safety components are, that there is some significant meeting space in that area. And granted, it's very on the side of the residential neighborhood, and there's some medians there that make it a little bit more challenging, but that might be a good idea to have, increase the amount of public meeting spaces that we have as part of that. So if it's pretty flexible, that's not a lot of room there, 2 acres, I think it is, and it's not a lot of room, but we can do some flexible things with it, potentially.
Yeah, well, that's why I'm trying to consider public safety being fairly broad.
So if there is office space, the office space can be utilized by a myriad of entities. Public safety may go by there. I'm just having a wonderful night tonight. Public safety may go by there to do some work there, or just to be able to get out of the heat or something like that. But you can also have other components in there in addition to the public safety piece of it. So I think you can stretch that.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing in my head right
Absolutely.
now.
Absolutely.
From health to,
Training or whatever, those facilities
Yeah.
also doubling as public meeting spaces, I think would very much be within the realm of what was anticipated for any of those sites. I think if you were just building a dedicated civic center only and it did not have any kind of inclusion of some of those else, then you're probably getting way out to the stretching, in which case I would recommend that language be changed if we do have limited means. You know, if council was looking to go beyond that. But I think as long as you're in the realm of the first service priority is public safety, similar to like the PD training rooms and stuff like that that can be done, you can stretch it to that. Or the rec center, it's an emergency shelter, but we have a gym in there and a bunch of other things that have been stretched to make it more useful for the community. I think you would be well within that.
It certainly could be multi-purpose. I mean, you could have a secondary, somewhat EOC there, not to say anything disparaging to our wonderfully new police building, but you could have a Plan B over there. So there's a lot of things you can do.
And further discussion on the update is, we feel pretty confident within the next 30 to 60 days, the second property that we've negotiated within a development agreement will be officially deeded over to the city because they have moved through the plating. That particular property is a little bit larger than the 2 acres, but that's located in Trinity Ranch.
I do want to tell Bo, thank you for negotiating these items and the resources that it provides for our community. Good job.
All right, moving on to our consent agenda. Let's see, we're going to pull number 2, a resolution for the city council to look at a 2-year service agreement. We'll pull that and come back on August 8th,
Fifth.
August 5th meeting, I'm sorry,
Yes, ma'am.
to have that on our agenda. Any others? Do I have a motion to accept?
So moved, Mayor. Second.
And we'll begin with Mayor Pro Tem Brazier.
Frazier, yes?
McShane, yes?
Kaznowski, yes.
Gibson, yes. Swain, yes.
Love, yes?
St. Pierre, yes.
Rodriguez, yes.
Prim, yes.
All right, thank you. And we're moving on to our new business. And the first one is an ordinance of the city of Elgin, annexing territory adjacent and contiguous to existing extraterritorial jurisdiction into the extraterritorial jurisdiction of the city of Elgin, Texas, finding that all necessary and required legal conditions have been satisfied, providing that such area shall become a part of the extraterritorial jurisdiction of the city, and that the owners and the inhabitants thereof shall be entitled to the rights and privileges of those residing in the extraterritorial jurisdiction of the city of Elgin, Texas, and be bound by the acts and ordinances now in effect, and to be here thereinto. Mr. Perry, explain all that.
Yes, so the long words are ETJ, as most of y'all are familiar with.
That didn't come.
So just as much as the legislation has changed, I'll give you a little brief 101 that people can opt out of your ETJ. You can also opt in voluntarily into an ETJ. This particular property is the most recent purchase property for the wastewater treatment plant, which is down at the intersection of the railroad tracks and County Line Road, just over 40 acres. Staff feels very strongly that we need to opt that into the ETJ of the city of Elgin. That way you have development
and we take this property, and what you're saying is because it was contiguous, we're taking the land to there too?
It would be, you actually, based on the maps, that property on the other side of the railroad tracks is actually already in the city's ETJ. Again, history lesson, probably about between 8 to 10 years ago, when ETJs were becoming a big thing, and they had changed the law where you couldn't go out and annex in a strip of 1 foot down the highway, which Elgin
We
did,
did.
and pushed its ETJ way out to Maynard. When the state revised that law, the only way to bring in ETJ was either voluntarily. So the city did I wouldn't call it a program, but it was definitely a door knocking where we went out there, and a lot of properties were, you can be in Travis County or in Bastrop County. Do you want to be in Maynard's ETJ, or do you want to be in Elgin's ETJ? If you want to be in Elgin's, you sign the voluntary ETJ. So a lot of properties, and you'll see kind of an irregular shape to the city of Elgin's ETJ. It's nice and curvatured out to the east. There's no one there that could come and take ETJ. But if you look at it as it goes towards Maynard, especially down into the southwest, you see a bunch of irregular shapes. It's not a nice circle. That was a lot of properties that came into the city's ETJ voluntarily back then. And so it just so happens that when we were looking at site locations and things of that nature, bringing this in voluntarily was going to be very simplistic because we already had the area surrounded. Had we not had an area that was contiguous, we probably would have been going to those property owners trying to get that in so that it could be contiguous to come in. But no, you're not taking any county line road, it's not gonna be a city road all of a sudden, that's still all Travis County, none of that really applies, to this decision.
Thank you.
Well, if there's no other discussion, I make a motion to approve.
Thank you.
Awesome. You got it.
Okay. All right, we'll begin with Councilmember Love.
Love, yes.
St. Pierre, yes.
Rodriguez, yes.
Krim, yes.
Frazier, yes?
McShane, yes.
Kaznowski, yes.
Gibson, yes. Swain, yes.
All right, motion carries. Our next item is the appointment of Councilmember Love as the Deputy Mayor Pro Tem. I think as we've talked before, that we need to begin a succession plan of bringing up our own. And Councilmember Love had always announced her wanting to become Mayor Pro Tem and wanting to get that spot. And so I think it's only befitting that we start training her, so that as she goes forth, she'll have knowledge of what goes on being Mayor Pro Tem. And Sue and I are gonna take her under our wings if the council approves, and begin her on her, I did find my book. I forgot it though, but I found it. Start working with her so that she'll know. And then that's just another backup for us. When we're not around, she's there. So that is what is on the table, and if we have a motion, have any questions?
Is there any language in the charter that prevents this or would be funky with regards to this? Not that I don't want to see that happen.
No,
I
we
just want to make sure that we're doing this.
We checked
Right
with
way.
Mark. Yeah, we checked with Mark before I stuck that out there.
Okay, just wanna make sure.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we appoint Councilmember Love as Deputy Mayor Pro Tem.
I'll second.
Okay,
Pick.
we'll begin with Councilmember Cramp.
Krim, yes.
Frazier, yes?
McShane, yes?
Kaznowski, yes.
Gibson, yes. Swain, yes.
Love, yes.
St. Pierre, yes.
Rodriguez, yes.
All right, congratulations. You'll get the word.
I get the word.
Should get a raise.
No, sorry. All right, the next thing we have is our Charter Review Committee, and we have Ms. Hymas and Peyton that are gonna lead us through.
You need a pistol too? You can borrow Pam's pistol.
Yeah, I'm just gonna bend it all the way down. So this is, what we have right now, and what you have right copies in front of you are what the lawyer has, fixed up so far. I'm just gonna go ahead and read, all the, propositions, and then just kind of give like a light little, explanation of why we kind of came to that decision. We will be having our last meeting, tomorrow. So if y'all have any, directives y'all want to give to the committee, kind of save those until too.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of like.
We got it, we got
I
it.
know, I agree. Okay, so Proposition B, amendments to the City of Elgin Charter for consistency and compliance with the state law. These updates are necessary because a portion of the existing charter are no longer enforceable under the state law. And this process ensures that our charter is legally sound, easier to understand, and better suited to meet the Elgin's current and future needs while giving the residents the final say through the vote. Okay, next one, Proposition C, to provide for the greater clarity as to intent and to simplify the language for ease of understanding. A more straightforward, transparent charter allows citizens to better grasp how their local government operates and how decisions affect them. This amendment is not just about clarity, it's about fostering a greater public engagement in Elgin, ensuring that the governance of Elgin is transparent, accountable, and easily understood by all.
Can we back up just a minute,
Yeah,
go
I
back to Proposition B?
Yes.
Maybe it's just not copied for us, but there wasn't an example for that like the other one. Is that at the bottom? Okay,
So I just did the one example. There's 15 of these.
okay.
But then you're gonna give us an
When
example?
you're gonna go, right? Don't tease us, and then we don't get to get the rest of it.
We can make that happen.
Okay, okay. I was ready to roll, and, okay, anyway. All right, thank you.
Okay, so then we're on. Okay, Proposition D, an amendment to the City of Elgin Charter to eliminate the requirement that public bus lines shall have first demonstrated a need for train service by having 500 intercity boarding in Elgin per weekday. Average over 3 months connecting to the city of Austin before taxpayer money may be spent or contractually pledged to any passenger train project. Pretty much, we're just gonna be able to just kind of hopefully edit it, so then we can just kind of take out the requirements and just kind of be able to open up, hopefully the taxpayer money to be able to go for future transportation projects and not have just so many restraints towards that. Okay, Proposition E.
Should we hold our questions to the end or ask?
Hold it to the end,
Okay, sorry.
write it down.
Hold? Okay, come back to this list.
Proposition E, an amendment to the City of Elgin Charter, changing the city council and mayor's terms of office from 2 years to 4 years. We are considering the extended term of the mayor and city council members from 2 to 4 years to provide elected officials more time to focus on important projects and long-term planning without the frequent pressures of running for re-election. Longer terms can help improve government stability and reduce election costs and encourage more experienced leadership.
So for this one, it was going to be, if this one is passed, we would start in 2026. So anybody up for election in 2026, whoever is elected would be elected for 4 years. Same thing for 2027. We wouldn't have another election until 2030. So we would have a 2-year gap, or 2029.
That's right.
Yeah, that's my bad. I did the math.
Proposition F, an amendment to the City of Elgin Charter requiring council members to reside within the ward from which they are elected during their term of office. This residency requirement helps keep our elected officials closely connected to the people and the neighborhoods they serve. When council members live in their wards, they better understand the local issues, concerns, and priorities, which lead
sure some of you see it, but there is a blank on this one. The committee still has to come up with the number for the petitioners. So,
Okay, proposition N, an amendment to the city of Elgin charter requiring the city secretary to issue appropriate blanks to the petitioners committee within 3 business days after the affidavit of the petitioners committee is filed. This ensures the city can promptly exercise their rights without delay, promotes transparency, and prevents administrative obstacles that could interfere with local processes. And the last one, proposition O, amendment to the city of Elgin charter requiring the initiative ordinance to adopt or by, think about that. Initiative ordinance adopted or approved by the electors to be published on the city's website instead of the official newspaper of the city. This, requires the initiative ordinance approved by the voters to be published in the city of Elgin's official website instead of the newspaper. By embracing the digital publication, the city aligns its practices with more modern communication standards, providing faster, broader, and more convenient access to more legal information. And this change not only enhances the transparency and public engagement, but it also hopefully reduces costs and supports the efficiency forward-looking to the governance consistent with today's technology and technological advances. All right, that's it.
Okay, can we go back to E? Yeah. Can you explain the timeline again? Because we have staggered elections, and so how would the staggered elections work on a full-year term going forward? And if we start this in 2026, would that mean that people elected in 2025 would not be up for re-election again until 2029?
no.
Did I hear that correctly?
No.
Okay.
So it would stay roughly the same. So the same 5 of you that would be up for reelection next year, those positions that would be open for election, you would still go through with the election, but you would be elected for a 4-year term. Now, during that period, we would have half of council and the mayor elected for a 4-year term, and the other half of council that was just elected this year would still be finishing their term in 2027, and then be up for election for the 4-year term. Does that make sense?
Okay, so, but when going forward, our next like it would be 2030 and then 2031?
Yes. So we would have a 2-year break in between elections.
I might need to make a chart.
Yeah, because, well, I mean, wouldn't we wanna keep the staggered of every 2 years we have an election for city council?
So,
Rather than 1 and 1, and then 2 years we don't elect, and then 2 years in a row we elect, that's a little bit
Yeah,
more
but you're
confusing
saving,
than
but
every other.
you're saving money.
yes.
That's,
You are saving money that way.
yeah, I'm not
So
really.
wait, so there's a chance that everybody could be up for election in 1 year?
No.
Well, no, but what I'm saying is we're staggered right now, so it's every
Right.
other year, rather than every other year it would be back-to-back years, and then we'd have 2 years with no election.
Yes.
Then you wouldn't have to.
And
pay
are there
any money
term
to the
limits
county.
with this?
There are no term limits, no. The committee didn't choose term limits.
So we're gonna hold us to a less of a standard than we hold like House of Representatives? I mean, the reason why they're elected every 2 years is for frequent accountability to constituents, and they have a much larger population of constituents. We're gonna say that we're just not gonna hold ourselves to that, a lesser accountability?
Staff, so me, I'm not making this recommendation.
Yeah, no,
it's the
I'm
committee.
just,
So, that is something you're more than welcome to ask the committee. I can't answer that. I'm sorry.
Madam Mayor. You have the option of accepting these recommendations or not accepting the recommendations. So that is kind of up to you. What we're presenting and what the committee is presenting is just their recommendations.
okay.
Okay.
So the charter review committee is still gonna be in place for quite a while, I mean, for what, till this is all final?
No, she said one more.
One more, they have one more
No.
meeting tomorrow.
So, they're just an advisory board.
Yeah,
Once they make their recommendations, they're done.
I see.
So tomorrow night's the
I
last.
see what you're saying.
The idea is we would,
We vote one
just
way or
like
the other.
any other board,
Yeah.
we would take their recommendations, adopt
Right.
them, and modify.
We're not gonna send it back to them to rewrite it.
No, and then with the idea, we would adopt and decide by whatever date it is in August, so that these charter amendments could then go before the voters in November.
Right.
And thank you for bringing that out. The date is that same August 18th date, so we're getting close to pushing that deadline. So the idea is that your charter review committee will meet tomorrow, and whatever else that they get accomplished, then that would, in essence, be what comes back to you. I know they're going to call me on the carpet a little bit and ask me some questions too, so whatever they get from that meeting will be added to this package, and that's what you'll get to take action on the 15th. They'll come back to you on July the 15th, and that should allow you enough time to determine what you want to get for that, by that August 18th deadline.
Okay, I know there was some conversation around making all the terms remove, man, make it more gender neutral, council person as opposed to just council man. Has that been discussed?
We have discussed, yes, we have discussed it. Hopefully when the lawyer has like kind of like the nice final edit, they should be able to kind of revise that, because we did kind of notice every time we're reading it, it's he, and I'm like, oh, okay, they never thought a woman can actually run a council before. But he did say that he is gonna be able to adjust it to be able to be more gender neutral, pretty much.
Okay, awesome. Another question. Is that D? Can you share a little bit more about why, for Proposition D, why not eliminating the article, or I'm not sure to call it an article or measure, why not eliminate the mention of public transit at all?
So this one is doing that, so it's crossing out and not adding any wording. So I'm not sure if it's clear on the screen. But it's just saying the city has the power to spend the money on public transit.
But why, I guess my question is, I'm just trying to understand the reasoning, why not strike that whole thing? Like, we could also say in the charter, the city has the ability to spend money on libraries.
Right. Why is this even in
Why,
here?
why would you
It's
even?
probably when they had the horse and buggy. And it hadn't
No,
been moved
I
since
was
then.
here, this was the first year I was here, and it was a petition.
Oh, you did it?
No, I did not, I promise, but I totally understand what you're saying, I totally do.
Because with the way I read this, it says the city has the power to spend taxpayer money to construct and maintain streets, roads, highways, bike trails, sidewalks, and mass transit facilities. Well, do we have the power to fund train service, bus service?
Do you remember why that was? It was a petition from the citizens to get it on there? Okay.
Because they didn't want, any money to be spent on the train from the city whenever Cat Metro was talking about coming in with the Green
Oh,
Line. And
okay.
they said, and that was the specifics, but the city can't spend any money on any part of that train unless all those stipulations were met.
Right. So what I'm saying is,
I get I totally get what you're saying, but
And this can be something that.
Ask the lawyer, is there any reason why we can't strike that at all now?
Okay, well, again, these are just the propositions that are being made by the lawyer. And of course, since tomorrow we are gonna have hopefully enough time to be able to kind of revise a couple of them if we need to go back. That's why we kind of wanna have these discussions, so if you have another concern, then we can bring it up to the meeting tomorrow and be like, okay, well, how about we just revise this one real quick?
Yeah.
See how we can fix it up a little bit more.
yeah, I think what you're hearing probably is to say, like, we don't think
That's even needed.
it's even needed in the charter.
like, could that entire one thing be stricken? That's the question.
Yeah,
Yes.
thank you.
Thanks.
Jennifer, maybe this is, I guess, is this just clarifying? Because right now, it's just a bit ambiguous, that right now our charter doesn't really specify that you have to live in the ward.
Now it actually, and with regard, they didn't have really a recommendation at all for people to actually live in the ward at all. But this one would just actually make sure that the board members actually live within the ward. Of course, you know, there is the act of God, and the ward has, we presented that, like, if there's a house fire, but as long as the board member is intended to move back in, but if, you know, if they say, hey, guess what, we can't, you know, move back into our house that burned down 2 years ago, but now they want her up for reelection, they have to just go ahead and register for that ward that they're currently living in.
I think I may have had one. Oh, Proposition H. And sorry, and I don't have the whole charter to look at, so that might be some of my confusion. Was this in there and it's just changing the language?
Adding the underlined part. So,
Under state
down here, they added
Oh,
under state law.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Because I was like, isn't this in there?
Yeah, but they added under state law because that was not.
Okay, I think I'm understanding. I apologize.
Stricken is out, underlined is new.
Okay, then I guess on that same kind of logic, Proposition K. So it says, so preparation of budget, he shall prepare the budget annually, submit it to the council, and be responsible for its administration.
I thought this was done already.
Yeah, I
Don't we have
guess
a
my
budget in
question is,
library?
They're adding
They're
that
adding
one
it,
and make it available to the public.
but it's already added, it's already available to the public.
They want it in there directly.
Words.
So,
Right.
yes, it's, we already make it available to the public, but it's not required by the charter.
That's what.
So this would require.
But is there no state law provision that requires that the budget be made available to the public, that the budget be available to the public? And I may be remembering from a long time ago, I don't want any more of those jokes there, but I thought we were required to have have it posted at the library and also have it on our website.
Right.
Am I wrong?
Yes, sir. No, it's
I
required
am
by
wrong?
state law. No, you're not wrong.
Okay.
It is required by state law.
So I think that the question, I think the question probably is, if that being the case, and I can ask the group about that tomorrow, then why is it critical to put it in the city charter? And that's okay, we can talk about it tomorrow, I understand. You've done really great, I'm very impressed. Thank you very much.
Well, you know, again, like Mayor said, this is just to, you know, get everything out in the open.
Yep.
And of course, if you guys are wanting to come in and just kind of, you know, get the easy on it. So we can ensure that hopefully we get this charter completely up to date as much as possible.
Absolutely.
When is the meeting tomorrow?
At 6:30.
We appreciate all of y'all's hard work.
Yes.
I do have one minor thing on Proposition O. It says that there's an ordinance is adopted and approved by the electors to be published on the city's website instead of the official newspaper. I know that it's a minor thing probably, but there are folks that don't have access or don't exercise access to the website. Should we include both the website and our local newspaper? We still have some older folks that would read the newspaper, I would think.
If
No.
we have time, tomorrow, we'll definitely go back
Okay.
into that one to make sure that we include.
I mean, I'm not old.
Okay.
Good point. I'm just saying, good point. Don't, confidence, confidence.
Thank y'all.
Thank you, thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, it is 8:10, and we're adjourning our regular meeting and going into our executive session, the city council. We're going to adjourn to the public meeting at any time during this meeting, which is now, and we convene with executive session pursuant to Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code to discuss any matter as specifically listed on the agenda and/or as permitted by Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code. Section 551074 Texas Government Code to discuss interim city manager assignments and duties. And number two, in accordance with Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code, the council will convene into executive session pursuant to Section 551.074 Personnel Matters, discuss executive recruitment of the city manager. And we will go over to the City Hall conference room for executive session. It is 10:14 and we're reconvening in our regular session. There was no items, no action taken, I'm sorry, in our executive session. Any other announcements?
4th of July.
Oh, yeah, VFW will be there.
Opens up at 5, fireworks start at dark.
At dark.
At dark.
Whatever time that is.
10
at
o'clock.
dark. Bands and all stuff like last
They
time?
do have a band, and I'm not taking a pie in the face or dunking booths, so.
All righty then. All right, and it's 10:15 and we are adjourned.